Hi, it's Amy. I'm here today to talk to you about what books I'm currently reading and then also have a look at the books I put aside for the month of August. So at the moment I'm reading 3 books, I'm reading 2 and I have 1 on hold. The first book that I'm reading or listening to is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. I'm nearly finished with one actually, so I will be picking up another audiobook I have lined up, which I think will be The Couple Next Door, which I had on my booktuber TBR, so I'll pick that one on next. The Way of Kings is really good, I'm really enjoying it. It's probably a 4-star read for me, but I will talk about more in my August wrap-up. The physical book that I'm reading at the moment is Terry Pratchett's Weird Sisters. This is book 6, I believe, in the Discworld series. I'm really enjoying it. I'll probably finish this as well today, so that'll be 2 books in one day, which is a really lovely feeling. I've only got 100 or so pages, but I find these books to be really easy to digest, and I'm just enjoying such a light-hearted and hilarious book at the moment. So there's that one. The book I have on hold is this chunker, which is Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky, or however you pronounce it. I'm not very good at Russian pronunciation. Okay, so this one's on hold because it's really quite dry and it's taking me a long time to read, and I don't want to pick it up a lot at the moment. The only reason I bought this is because I really wanted to start collecting the cloth-bound editions about 3 or 4 years ago while I was at uni. They're really hard to read and I do not enjoy they just don't, I can't really pull them apart, and I don't want to because I don't want to crack the spine or ruin it, but I don't really care about having a fancy edition of a book if it's not easy to read. That's the reason why I've gotten rid of my Test of the D'Urbervilles in this edition as well, because I don't want to read that particular book, and also I'm not going to hold on to it just because it's a cloth bound. The only reason I'm 130 or so pages through this already is because it was the only book I had when I was at Glasgow Airport recently, delayed for 3 hours waiting for my flight back down to London. I don't think I'm going to pick this up anytime soon, so we'll see. It might take me a few months to actually get through this one, but there it is. So now on to the books I want to read in the month of August. I have quite a stack here. I don't think I'll get to all of these, but I have a week off work from today until, not this Monday, next Monday. So I want to say I can get a lot read, but I'm going to be with a lot of friends. We've got a holiday planned in Bournemouth, so we shall see. And as I said, we'll see how much I read in my wrap-up at the end of the month. So the first book I have on my TBR is Pyramids by Terry Pratchett, which is the next book in the Discworld series. This one, I believe, is a different storyline, because there's a lot of different storylines within in the overarching Discworld series. I think this is the Assassin's Guild. I could be completely wrong. I haven't read this one yet, and I don't often read blurbs of books and series just because I want to read it and I know I'm going to read it, so I don't really invest much in knowing much beforehand. I'm just really looking forward to reading some new characters and entering a new storyline. I always enjoy picking up a new one, so there's that one. The next book is another in a long series, which is The Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb, and this is the second book in the Farseer trilogy. I read The Assassin's Apprentice recently and really enjoyed it, so as soon as I finished it in a coffee shop, I popped literally across the road to the Waterstones and picked this one up. It's a bit of a chunker, so it comes in at about 650-ish pages, which is a lot bigger than the first one, but I found this series so far to be quite easy to read, so I'm hoping that the length isn't too much of a deterrent, and it actually flies by quite nicely. So again, I don't know really a lot about what's going on in this book, I just want to read the next in the series. The next book is Ernst Junger's Storm of Steel. I read a book last year about the British kind of side of World War One, and I knew about this book, which is Junger's, I believe it's a memoir. Okay, so it's a memoir rather than a diary, sorry. of his time in the German trenches in World War One, and I just feel like, being British, you don't often get to see this side of the war. So I'm really interested to have picked this up, and apparently, like, his view is quite interesting because he really glorifies war and finds a lot of positivity in it. Maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but it would be a really interesting kind of viewpoint on this very bleak time in history, in my point of view. The next book I have on my TBR is Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse. I'm collecting at the moment the red spine editions of, well, the vintage classic editions of Woolf's works. I just think these pages they have on the front are really gorgeous. They're just really beautiful artwork. What I've read so far of Virginia Woolf has been Mrs. Dalloway and The Waves, and I really enjoyed both of them. I studied kind of modernist culture as part of my history degree, or both my history degrees, so I'm just always drawn to writers of modernism, and Virginia Woolf is definitely one of my favourites. Again, I'm awful. I don't really know what the blurb is for this one. So it's about holidaying on the Isle of Skye, apparently, and I go to the Isle of Skye every year because I live in Glasgow. I'm just down here for some business. So every year, and we went this year, it's the Isle of Skye, and we go to the Portree Half Marathon, and we spend like 3 days going around it. So, no, I didn't know that, but that'll be really interesting to read, and I'm always up for another Virginia Woolf. Now on to some more non-fiction. I've got here The Great Cities in History, and this is edited by John Julius Norwich. So this is the history of, you know, great cities. I'm just reiterating the title for you. Very interesting. So they've got ones like Lisbon's in here, Timbuktu, Florence, Lubeck. I think these might be some that have kind of dwindled out in history as well, so that's kind of interesting. But they're written by different historians. Each of them is written by a different person, which I really enjoy. Harking back to my history days, it's nice reading a collection of kind of lots of different historians, so just it's like a different voice for each one, and I really find that quite nice to read and quite an enjoyable read as well. The last book I would like to read in the month of August is Neil MacGregor's Germany, Memories of a Nation. So this is a kind of look at the cultural history of Germany. I believe it's post-World War II, don't quote me on that. But it's just, it looks like a fantastic read. So I read Neil MacGregor's last book, or one of his books, which was 100 Objects in History. So Neil MacGregor is, I think he's either like the director or something of the British Museum. So he pulled out 100 objects from the British Museum, and then went through them one by one and gave us a kind of a synopsis and history of that object. And I really enjoyed that book, so I went and picked up his other one. So kind of in the same vein as that book, there's loads of pictures, colour photos, you know, portraits, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, I used to, when I studied history, I was a culture historian, so this is really, really up my street. So those are the books that I would like to read in the month of August, and the books I'm also currently reading. I will, I guess, see you in another video. Until then, guys, bye.